Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third week of Roots and Chill here at BlackProGen Live. We've got a stacked panel this afternoon. We've got True joining us from Kentucky, James from Maryland wearing his, I'm not sure which Eagles that is, Newark Eagles. Okay. We've got Teresa in New York, Ellen in Florida, and Renata in Virginia. All right, everyone, let's do a quick check in. About what the status is in your particular state right now with regard to COVID. Let's start with Renata.
Hi, everybody, here from Virginia. I actually did not watch today's press conference, but I know that we are on a full stay-at-home order right now, unless you have to get groceries or exercise or go to the doctor. So that's what we're doing. I think the last I heard, I hate to throw out a number when I'm not sure, so I won't even throw out a number, but the cases are rising every day in Virginia by a significant amount.
All right, next up, Teresa, what's going on up there in New York?
We're in the epicenter of epicenters. It's scary. In my uptown, north of 155th Street, you're talking about of all the people tested so far, 53% have tested positive. What can I tell you? New York City is ground zero back again, and our communities are getting hit hard. So, we need to pray for New York and pray for all the other places as well. Cuomo's doing an excellent job getting the word out, but more needs to be done from the top down, and all we can do at this point is pray.
I agree. James, what's going on there in Maryland? We can't hear you, James. All right, True, what's going on in Kentucky?
We are doing pretty well. We've been on lockdown, it seems like, for a month now. I had to commend our governor, Andy Beshear. He's got us on lockdown. He doesn't want us traveling anywhere, and we have to wear our masks when we go out, but he still does allow us to go get our groceries for a week's worth, the doctors and things like that, but mainly everything is shut down as far as like work. The website is working good at the COVID KY.gov for us. So there's always plenty of information going on. He meets with us every day at 5 p.m. So we run to the TV just like Toy Story for Andy's on, and for all his little kids. And
wasn't that the name of the kid in Toy Story was Andy?
That's what she said.
Yeah, but that's how we've been referring to our governor because he's so endearing like this. There was this one meme that went out that had Andy, and then on his foot it said KY, because, who knew that when Andy went off to college, he'd become the governor of Kentucky. So we've got a special Facebook page just for our governor, so we can keep each other uplifted. When someone passes, we use our green light or green signal on our home for the deaths, but it also means renewal as well for us here. So you'll see the Louisville or Kentucky Bridge here lit up when someone has passed from COVID. But we're pretty good in numbers, but our testing is starting to get more ramped up now, but we're surrounded by all these other states that are not doing well. So we're surrounded by the germs, but he's been able to keep us maintained. So
you're surrounded by the germs. You just called me a germ.
Yeah, because Andy said y'all don't come over here and we can't go over there.
You know what? I am not liking the fact that Tennessee has been likened to a germ. But you know what? We'll talk about that after. Yeah. James.
Hey there, all you cool cats and kittens. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Well, things are pretty much the same here in Maryland as they have been as everywhere else. Unfortunately, while I have been able to stay coronavirus free, my family and friends have not. Unfortunately, my first cousin was found positive yesterday, and her ex-husband, actually, we found out her ex-husband died from it yesterday, and we think that he may have given it to her because they have a child together that keeps them, even though they're not romantically together, that keeps them close proximity with each other. So we're praying for her and everybody. I did speak to her this morning, and she's in good spirits. She actually said that SOB did say when he died he was going to take me with him, and yeah, so she's in good spirits.
Oh,
At least she's in humor through this crazy time.
you know what? Just and considering the theme of this week, my goodness, right. Ellen, what is going on in Florida?
I'd like to know too. I mean, we got finally a stay-at-home order.
We finally got one too here in Tennessee. Hey, high five! We made it.
Y'all are so naughty.
We were some exemptions, and the number one, the first place, the mega churches. The exemptions are for the mega churches, and we just had like a pastor on Sunday have like 1,000 people for one service. And then a few hundred for the next one.
And your governor did overrule the local.
Yeah, he wrote, right? He put in a second one that just kind of also said that local governments could not overrule the main rule, which is nuts. So
see, y'all need Governor Bashir. We got a meme too out there where he says every day, you can't be doing that.
Well, what you said, and see, you know, us and our having mandate selves here, you know, Bill Lee, he trying to make sure he gonna get him some ventilators when it's the whole state come crashing down, you know, acting a fool with, you know, in the words of my mom, you know, calling the president a monkey. That's every time I talk to my mom, she calls him a monkey because she feels like he is acting like an uncivilized person or an uncivilized being. And because you just don't dangle people's lives like this. And so we finally got a stay-at-home mandate. At first it was, it's a good idea. That's what we got. We got it's a good idea executive order. And then we got the final clamp down after Nashville was off the chain. And now Memphis is sort of meeting Nashville. And locally, my city mayor and our county mayor, because in Tennessee, this is why you need to learn how counties and parishes are set up. We have a city mayor, we have a county mayor. And we have county commissioners, and the county mayor and the city mayor here issued an edict, stay at home, at least for the next 7 days. It may be longer. They are issuing citations to people. They had to close the parks down because folks thought it was a vacation and not, you need to stay your tail in the house. And so that is what the tail of the tape has been like here in the volunteer state, where you need to be volunteering to stay your behind inside the house. That's what you need to be doing. But people just are not. So it's just, my God, you know, we are definitely doing this as a way to keep you inside of the house so that you follow your stay-at-home orders and your shelter in place. But also at the same time, we are documenting our experiences during this process as a part of BlackProGen. BlackProGen, of course, it exists as a show to help you do your family history research and to push you along, but it also is a chronicling of our personal journeys through life in our histories. As our hair changes, as we get taller, as we lose weight, as we gain weight, as we gain grandchildren, as the folks leave the house and we're by ourselves, right? This is a chronicling, right? So this is why we have to cover this aspect of what we're seeing. And so let's talk about today's subject matter. We are all over marriages and unions. Oh boy, the rings, the dress, the flowers, the venue, the money, the stuff that's not happening now because no one wants to die or get exposed, right? Something else before we really jump into week 3's theme, let's have a conversation too about how this is affecting the grieving process. I know at least 2 scenarios within my own family where people are not able to have closure on death because of the risk of everyone getting together at the service. So what has happened, at least in California, is you have to do a direct burial or you have to do a direct cremation. That's it. Those are the only 2 options you have. That is a lot to process. Even if you don't, and here's the thing, these are not deaths that are related to COVID. These are just folks that are just naturally passing away. What were you going to say, Teresa?
I was going to say here in New York, they just passed a rule that let's say someone goes into cardiac arrest and you call an ambulance. Well, the paramedics who come, if they can't resuscitate you on the spot, they're being told they have to leave the body in the house. And then you have to wait for the NYPD coroner's office to come. Now imagine you're in New York City where there's so much deaths every day, and how long you're going to be in the house with a body, and then that body's taken. And at some hospitals, they've been using bulldozers to bring the body, hopefully respectfully, to the outside morgue. And then they have to document it. But because there's so much death in the city, the funeral homes are all backed up. So that you have regular people dying for whatever causes. Now you're dealing with a pandemic of people, just having no closure.
Well, in my family, because one of the matriarch passed away, they opted just to not have anything, because they could have done the 10 people, but they opted because they didn't want folks having to jockey for who deserves to be there. That's a whole other fight within a family that we should not have to have. You know what I mean? Granted, we want to keep everybody protected, but at the same time, like that's challenging. What else are you all hearing with regard to this, Renata?
I was just going to say it's really sobering to read the obituaries. I read the obituaries a couple of different days this week, and at the end of the each person's obituary, you're seeing things like, due to the current coronavirus crisis, there will be service at a later date, or there will be no service, or there will be a graveside service with immediate family only. And, it just really brings it home, to you that this is really impacting families in so many different ways than the ways that we might think of off the top of our heads. Yeah. And I have also seen a couple of virtual funerals being done by the funeral homes. I've seen that in the obituaries also.
Yeah, that's probably been the safest and probably the most used. I had a friend who's literally everyone that I know that is passing away from other stuff. Like they had cancer or blah, blah, blah. And it just so happens that they're passing away now. And so a friend of mine, her grandmother passed, who raised her. She gave her spot up to her aunt. You know what I mean? Like people are having to choose positions. James, what were you going to say about
No, I was going to say, y'all are doing better than me, because like I said on the last time we did this, I know now of 2 people who've actually died from this disease. And I mean, nobody, as far as I know, nobody's even got a projected when we can do funerals or anything of that nature. I'm not dealing with the bodies and whatnot, so I can't speak on that. But as far as like arranging ceremonies and stuff, I mean, people, as far as I have seen, aren't even in that mindset, and you have to think, I mean, my cousin's ex-husband that died yesterday, I mean, he was barely 50, if that, so the fact that he's leaving behind a daughter and all that type of stuff, I don't even know where you begin, because, for example, I've been more dealing with family reunion cancellations and stuff. I mean, even if you want to have stuff, I mean, how do you know people are even going to come, especially when you start putting money out and stuff? I mean, are we going to get back to, I mean, if the quarantine was over tomorrow, are we all just going to run to the mall and to the movies and stuff? I don't know, and that's not fair either, because then it's like the deceased, people love them, but it's like, do people really want to show up to a funeral? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that.
It's a great, and I'm glad, True, that you posted that link in the chat room to the episode where we talk about the whole rites of passage with regard to funeral services. Because this is, I mean, and think about New Orleans, you guys, like that is where they do funerals are such a huge part of the culture. And I had a cousin who I talked to over the weekend, who was there, and there's a lot of PTSD that is being unearthed as a result of this whole experience, because they saw the refrigerated trucks rolling in, and they have not seen those refrigerated trucks rolling in terms of holding bodies since Katrina. Okay. And so when they see the convention center being made out into, like the Javits Center in New York being made out to a makeshift hospital, and they see refrigeration coming in for bodies, that is a trigger. And so, I think it goes without saying, you all, as this is our sort of time capsule as to what was going on at the time and us being very truthful and honest about our own personal experiences, definitely consider journaling, maybe even vlogging to yourself, something that you may not even post on social media or you just may keep for your own posterity. Don't necessarily look into, yes, look into what happened historically. Angela posted an amazing post about the cholera outbreak with regard to the, freedmen. Renata did one on the Spanish flu, right? Like we can do that aspect, but remember, you're also charting history as you're living this. And so if there's any other reason right now, other than the fact that we are just being forced to stop everything that we're doing naturally daily, jot down your experience, even if it's only once, right? Khalifa said in the chat room, family reunion cancellations. Absolutely. We've been talking about that too. What do you do when the family reunion is canceled? You know what I mean? How do you redo that? We've been doing virtual meetups every weekend. We've been having fun on ours, right? I highly suggest doing that. Get on Google Hangouts, whatever you can, get the elders involved, which we had a whole conversation last week about whether or not the young people should be feeling some type of way because their rites of passage, prom, graduation are canceled and they don't get those things. The elders are like, but it's for our good. But I'm like, but they still have a right to feel sad. You know what I mean? But that was a valuable conversation. So, yes, getting back. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Nika, it's you made a fabulous point because it's funny being here. I was here for 9/11, and I can remember when everybody rushed down to the convention center when they were asking for supplies, and we were all ready to go there. And now I'm going to get emotional. We can't even go there because that's where the COVID people are. And it's just, the trauma again of dealing with that.
Yeah, especially when you started seeing, oh, we surpassed Hurricane Katrina. We've surpassed, 9/11 death numbers, right? Like people were sure to illuminate that. Like, yeah, for me, I can't look at the MARIAH Convention Center or Ernest Morial Convention Center and not see that's a cemetery to me. And they do Essence there every year. And and maybe that's why I don't feel compelled to go, is because I see a cemetery.
I just wanted to say that when you were talking about New Orleans and everything, I put a link in the chat room to an article about somebody that got arrested for trying to do a second line just recently this week or earlier this week. So they're pretty serious about it.
Yeah.
They have to be now, they have to be. Yeah,
the time for potentially doing more or less is out of the window. So you all stay protected, stay indoors. Here's another thing too, because I've had a lot of people reach out to me because I've made masks. You do not need a made mask with a elastic behind your ears. You don't need this made for you.
I got an easy one.
Exactly. You can take a t-shirt. You can take, the middle part of a t-shirt, right? You can cut that out, start with the rectangle, and on the sides of the t-shirt, just cut out like this. So you've got 2 straps at the top and 2 straps at the bottom, cut out like a sort of an H shape. There you go. Use both sides, right? Cut through both layers of a t-shirt and use that when you go out. I highly suggest everyone do that. The other thing, great comments in the chat room, college student athletes that are seniors didn't get to play in March Madness. Absolutely. But they're actually talking about extending their eligibility an extra semester so that they're able to finish out that stuff. And I have to say, I'm feeling sort of selfish about that because we have a family friend whose son is playing D1 basketball, and he was having an amazing season, and then coronavirus came and it went. So if Dejon Davis at Cal Baptist gets another semester, I'm not mad. Let the baby get his extra semester, and anyone else. But at the same time, right, we still got to be safe. Yes, shop towels act as filters for masks. Absolutely. Anything you guys can think of, right? Cover yourselves up in public. I think, I don't like this whole hanging on a thread. The CDC might issue. Just say it.
I've said it from the very beginning, and people wouldn't listen to me.
And no one would listen. And so, I'm like, literally, you don't need to have this. You don't need this. Just you got a scarf.
2 layers of fabric.
That's all it is, you guys. And just heed that advice and stay, in the words of Barbara, stay your ass in the house. And only leave for essential things. And the other thing I will also suggest too is sanitize whatever comes in your house.
Absolutely.
Okay, like this is where we go old mama. Okay, I don't care what race. We talking Latina mama, we're talking
Take off
Black
those
mama.
shoes.
That come on, take those shoes off at the front door, fill that kitchen sink with that cap full of bleach and that soap. So
Mhm.
you can sanitize your stuff down. Hit those light switches, hit those door handles. Right? Matter of fact,
And I think
you
it's
have to, if you,
4 teaspoons of bleach to a quart of water.
well, you know, I'm a
And you
Black
can do
mama.
more than that.
I do a visual.
Yep. Mhm.
That looks about right. That's what I
Mhm.
do. But also consider too, right? If you can get wipes, be a good steward to your family. If they have them available where you live, send them to people. I just had to send 2 containers to my cousin who does home health care in Louisiana, and her job is no longer providing them.
Yep.
So
I sent boxes to both of my daughters in New York last Friday after somebody blessed me. I think I may have told you all this before, but
Yeah.
last Friday, but somebody blessed me. It was way more than
And
I needed.
that is so appreciated because the amount of gouging in my neighborhood is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So if you can help somebody someplace else and do it, you know.
Yeah, I also want to make sure everybody to make sure you are practicing good habits with your water as well, because water is life. So make sure you're getting the cleanest water you can possible. You just never know. We're going to segue into talking about the subject for the day, which is marriages and unions. I wanted to share some stuff with everybody that I found in my own research. One of these, I want to start off with a photo that I have. Hold on one second, because I want to because again, Nika, I need to I want to share something for the audience. Nika, can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Yeah, I wanted to share something for the audience.
Okay.
This is actually coming out of a book of photos that a relative of mine on my my light skin side of my family, meaning he was white, but this
You
is a
know
book.
what now?
But this is a book called "To Remember a Vanishing World." It's written, but the photos are a collection by Darrell Lamar Hightower of Barber County, Alabama. And for those of you who've been watching BlackProGen for a long time, you know that one of my kind of pillar ancestors, if you will, is Reverend William J. Hightower, who was actually D.L. Hightower's uncle. So Darrell Hightower was white. Reverend Hightower was mixed race. But he took photos of Barber County, Alabama in the 1930s and 40s to kind of create a time capsule, if you will, of the world as he knew it, because he saw the modernization and urbanization was coming to that region of Alabama. And this photo really strikes me, if you all can see it here. So it says here that Darrell Hightower, he liked to record unusual events. And in this picture, we see probate judge J. Foy Lassiter marrying the 90-year-old man and a 20-year-old woman in the late 1930s.
Ooh, look at her face. Oh
Right.
my God, she is petrified. That looks like Celia Mista. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So
just looks, oh Lord, no.
Yeah. So I wanted to pull this up because sometimes, we see these, as genealogists and family historians, we see these things in our families and we say to ourselves, well, how could this happen? We see it written down, but I really want to kind of personalize it for everybody to kind of see that these things did happen. They may not be as commonplace today, but marriages like this did take place. And, sometimes we might trick ourselves into saying, well, maybe that's a typo. Maybe they wrote the age wrong. Well, here's an instant right here. Imagine finding this couple on your family tree on a census somewhere, and what that must be like, but now I wanted to show everybody just so we can get a visual on, odd things did happen in marriages back in those days.
What you talking about odd things? That girl looks petrified. She looks like that man gone.
What year was this?
This was in the third. Let me crack the book open real quick. I don't think there's an exact date on it,
But did
Uh,
he have a Civil War pension or something?
That's no. She looked like her mama was like, "Look, I got 13 children. You
Could
the
have.
oldest. I'm gonna need you to get you a husband." And she was like, "Are you for real serious? You about to have me marry this 80-year-old man?" That I'm reading all.
Yep.
You could write an entire play on this one photo.
Right.
Yeah.
You really could. There's not an exact date on it. But that may be
Okay.
something I need to go in and investigate a little bit more to find out who exactly this couple was. All the pictures in this book are from between 1930 and 1965, so I imagine it's pretty early. We have to again using some of our genealogical methods, right? I'm gonna have to
Wait a
go in
minute.
and
Wait a minute. Somebody in the chat room, Lord, they're cutting up today.
What are you doing?
Somebody says she looks like "To Death Do Us Part" as soon as possible.
We don't do an award show on for BlackProGen, but maybe we should, because that definitely would be a nominee for something.
True, Ed. Because this is that last woman with Granddaddy Ike. This is her. That literally is a picture of her. Because you can't tell me she wasn't like, true
I
Ed.
know. Granddaddy Ike, he been married 3 times, and the third one, Grandma Berta Hatcher, that's the one he had the last 13 kids with. And Uncle Cup, which is Walter Ivory, Granddaddy Ike was about 70 when he was born. That he's the last child out of the 23. So
Now you know what?
yeah, and his father-in-laws, I'm thinking about, all that with his father-in-law being all old, and the second wife, she was like considered an old maid, and I'm like thinking she was young, and Granddaddy Ike was already old, but
true. You know what? I'm thinking now, right? Where was Granddaddy Ike from?
What
he
you
was
said,
right over
Alabama.
next door in Bullitt County.
I'm just saying, it is a possibility. I can send you that
Put the
photo.
picture up again. I've got to break it down. We've got to break this photo down, because here's the thing. What if this is all you had, you guys?
He had his good
What if this
overalls
is
on
what
too,
if
the ones
this
he didn't work in
is
the field in.
That's what I'm saying. He got his good coveralls. Okay, the coverall situation is cracking. Okay, we got to break down this picture. Okay, so his hair looked like it's braided up. Okay, so that's number one. You see, we got the person that wrote wrote the name up here. Okay, that took maybe whoever took the picture. I don't know.
That's the judge.
That's the
The judge. Okay, then her eyes are telling the whole story right there. That's a novel right there. Okay, that's a novel. Okay, then you got him looking all kinds of Bubba, I'm running the streets type situation because I am a judge. Okay, he got one of her hands holding it because they had to, and here he is reading right now. If I was real nosy, what's this? What's that on the shelf?
Hey.
He got his jacket hanging up there, or maybe that might be his robe hanging on the wall, or hanging off this bookshelf. There go his hat. Mm-hmm. Okay, right? Oh boy, look, he even got a bandana like you supposed to be wearing around your neck when you go out to the store. He got one right here on his neck so he could wipe his brow. Yeah. Okay, and I'm telling y'all, this is a full production in this picture.
And they actually, they was able to find her a white dress.
They did, and I hate this for her because it's look at patriarchy.
Yeah, virginal.
It's all patriarchy. What's on her dress? There's like a little. Is it embroidery? Do you think?
Looks like a brooch, maybe.
Now, James is gonna have to go back and see how many kids they had, if they had any, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Girl, I would die if that was Granddaddy Ike, because we don't have no picture of him. And I don't know if Grandma Berta would look like that, but she could have, because, man, the pictures that we do have of her.
And people in the chat room are dying laughing, talking about the good overalls.
Those are
his brand new ones. Those are his brand new ones.
Okay,
oh, my Lord.
Okay,
yes, James.
Okay, so for the chatters, for the record, right? Because there's BlackProGen, and then there's BlackProGen behind the scenes, and y'all don't usually see that. Behind the scenes, we were asked we always get little assignments. Nika always says, don't just come with something general or generic. I want something that's gonna pop. And so I wanted to make sure I gave y'all something that popped today. And I knew that when y'all saw that.
Gave us pop.
Goes my mind.
So I'm gonna have to go back through and try to and maybe update y'all in a future episode on my findings on who these people may have been.
Mhm.
You know,
Wait a minute. The chat room is still cutting up. Someone said the judge is like, "What the hell? You pay me, I will marry you." With his hand on his hip. Help me, please. Ugh. That's another one. His hair is slicked down. Somebody said good overalls. Someone said no Celia Mister's father. Oh, oh my God. She looked like she got that nasty woman's disease.
That's messed up.
Oh my God.
I'm going on mute. I can't with y'all right now.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes. Lord, God bless her. God bless her. With regard to marriages and unions, if you're in the chat room, we want to hear from you. What did you guys find this week? Something I think that goes overlooked, because we talked about this in the thread, is just here James has brought out a great example of don't just go for the literal. Don't just go for the marriage license. You've got to use other stuff to supplement. Sometimes it's the newspaper, sometimes it's other things, right? It's not always a situation where it is super easy. It's in the right spot. The names are spelled correctly, right? This is where your additional BlackProGen live training and watching comes into play. Anything else you guys you can think of when it comes to marriages and unions that people kind of don't really pay attention to as they're looking for records?
I was going to say, with this week, I've been looking at my brick wall is the Revolutionary War. So I've been trying to figure out who my fourth great grandmother was. And one of the things I find is when you go that early, there are no records. All I can go on now, and Shelley's been helping me, but all I have is a newspaper article that says she was Dutch and she married a colored man. And I've been looking for marriage records, cannot find them. And then I said to myself, wait a minute, let me go back here. I hear Shelley all the time, timeline. So I went back, and we know in 1850 census, she's living with her daughter. It looks like 1840, she's living with the same daughter. And then 1830, I'm like, wait a minute. We know she lived next door to Caleb Bruin, and there's a woman named Anne Sigler. And she went by Anne, or Martha Ann was her full name. So I put it out there to BlackProGen panelists to help me with some of the handwriting, because it was atrocious. And I think it was Bernice who got it right, Sigler. So I've been going back. We know that he was a patriot. We know he was a sea captain. So I went back and found that there was a Captain Thomas Sigler. Now, the interesting thing here is there are no records. If they weren't married in a Dutch Reformed church or the Presbyterian church, there's not many places you can go. So I said, well, let me just find out what I can find about Thomas Sigler. So I went back, Find Your Grave popped up, and you see who his children are, but there's no wife. And I'm like, Then I'm thinking, why is that? Because normally a wife would be documented. So I go back, and I actually went into some Facebook groups, because as we know, sometimes you have to go to the slaveholders or the enslavers' family and descendants and find out some information. So I threw out all the variations of that name back to the Dutch. And a couple of people contacted me with, well, they're from Belleville, New Jersey. So I'm like, well, our folks were in Newark and Belleville. So I go back and look at Thomas. He was Sigler. He was born in Newark, New Jersey, died in Belleville. So now I'm just going through town records to see if there's any indication, because again, not all marriages were documented. And then I'm like, really, would an interracial marriage be documented that early? Probably not. So I'm digging and what I call deep digging in places that you don't traditionally look. I looked at the DAR records. There, I can't find them there. Shelley might be able to help me out further, but the only other places I could go are the City of Newark archives, and that's closed until further notice. So that's going to be number one on my agenda because they'll probably have that kind of documentation there.
Well,
And then,
I would
yeah.
also add that has put a super wrench into what we would consider a genealogical non-hiatus, right? Is the fact that
Mhm.
yeah, we're all off work, but we can't travel and do research trips right now. Like
No,
you
but I
basically have to do everything virtually, or rely on somebody that has a magic book site that they know where they can get books, or you know what I mean?
or
Something like
or
that.
you're friends with the archivists, remember?
Well, yeah, I mean, and they're still going to work, right? True.
Mhm.
Well, I guess that's still the same thing, but before I was in DAR, I used the research inquiry quest. I think it was like $40 at the time, and it might be $30 for members. But I did that in the meantime because you got to realize they're backed up now, so you might as well just go ahead and put your request in
Mhm.
and see what all comes back. Be very specific about what it is you want and what you're needing for them to look for. Don't have it all over the place and out in the atmosphere.
Well, let's take a step back because people don't
Right.
know what DAR is. You're using an acronym. That's Daughters of the American Revolution. Okay, right? We can't
Has it?
assume everybody
Yeah.
watching is where we are, right? That's Daughters of
Right.
the American Revolution. It's a lineage society that Shelly, who's in the chat room, just a commenting away, and True are members of, and they're suggesting to Teresa to fill out a research request because the
Mhm.
Daughters of the American Revolution have a massive library and repository in Washington, D.C., and they have staff who actually does paid research requests. And in this scenario where you have a situation where you've got an interracial couple and they may not be officially recognized in terms of a marriage, right? You've done all the steps, you've looked locally, you've looked, maybe newspapers, whatever else, right? You've exhausted all of your avenues in terms of where to look. It may be in a book, it may be in a personal account, it may be in a lot of different things, right? And so I think
Mhm.
this is actually a very good point for us to really make, is that sometimes you have to pay somebody else to find it for you. Can I say that again? Sometimes you have to pay someone else to find it. They may know of a resource or something that you're not privy to yet, right? Sometimes that exists. Sometimes you can't get there, like right now, you can't get there. So this is when you have to reach out and you have to employ other people. Okay. Lord, the chat room, somebody just said that they have been using the Family History Center Wi-Fi from the parking lot so they can get into Family Search.
That's what I'm
Hey,
talking about.
that's
That's
what
a
I'm
good
talking
one.
about.
All
We love
right.
you.
Wait.
By
Wait.
any means necessary.
Let's break that down for a minute. They're practicing good social distancing
They are.
while still being productive and not breaking the law. Kudos.
Well,
Amen.
Amen. And so here's the other thing. I think we would be remiss. We did have a show already. True, do you have the link to the marriages show? Because that we went through painstaking detail in terms of what
I'll go
marriages
get
are,
it.
how they started. What was the point? My favorite thing was when you go into the church and they have to announce it 5 times to make sure that man wasn't marrying some other woman or that you wasn't married to some other man. It's like walking around the tree 16 times, to me, that means a divorce, so to speak. So be sure to check out that episode because we went into detail about marriages and unions. And someone said the day show is off the chain. Talking about us. We are no different in the day. I don't think we are. Maybe we are because we're not all sleepy sometimes. Either way, we're on quarantine. I'm like, do we need to switch when we film the next live episode to make it during the day? If people think we're more entertaining during the day, please raise your hand in the chat room if you feel like we need that. I don't know. I'm not opposed to it. We get our evenings back.
I think the chatters are a little sharper in the day. I'm reading some of those comments
The
about
coffee
that picture.
has fallen and the caffeine has fallen. I think it has.
Somebody said Mr. from the color purple looks good compared to the dude in my picture. God, look, y'all vicious.
I'm not going to get that picture out of my head.
Neither am I, because I feel so bad for her. I
James,
almost want to, you know what, James? I'm going to make that your contact on my phone. It's just going to be her face. The chat room
No, he
is
has to come back. He's gotta come
several
back and tell
hands
us.
are up in the chat room, several, that we need to switch the show during quarantine time to during the day. I'm just, people said it's great since I'm off work.
Fine by
So,
me.
all right. So we'll have to see. I think the next live episode is April 14th, slavery in North and South Carolina. So we need to go in with the folks that are scheduled for that show, see if they're available to do it earlier, right? Apparently 1 o'clock is our sweet time or sweet spot because everyone likes it. But the other thing I was going to say is a lot of folks, especially because a lot of marriage records weren't really digitized and made available until recently, folks relied a lot on indexes, but they didn't actually seek the actual certificate. And so I just want to implore folks that even if you have, in theory, found all the marriages in your family, seek out the certificates because there's additional information that is on there, especially if you vet the witnesses. We are always talking about the witnesses. So in closing, I'm just going to share this marriage record with you guys that I just pulled one that I had in my downloads folder because, I'm constantly looking at stuff because we're all very nosy because that's what we do here at BlackProGen. And this is one from Oklahoma. And note, did you guys see up here? It says it's indexed. They have a little stamp up here that says indexed. It says Dunk Van, and this is the man that shot the other man because he thought he was Cherokee Bill, but that's a whole other episode and a whole other story. We're looking at a murderer who applied for a marriage license. No lie, really did. It says marriage license issued to Mr. Watt Van, age 20, residence. It's got the 2 locations. So the index is most likely not going to have the residence location, right? That's one of those things that typically is not indexed. So he's going to marry, Watt Van is going to marry Cora Kirk, right? She's 23. Look at her, cougar. She lives in Cedar, Oklahoma, right? And it says, I, the undersigned father of Watt Van. Notice that a man signed for his son to get married, not a man signing for his daughter to get married. And the son is 20 years old. So this is kind of out of the ordinary, right? Like this isn't your typical situation that you see. And you see, look at Dunk the murderer. Lord, I can hear him cussing me out from beyond. He signed his name twice.
Wow.
And so from there, you scroll down, right? We're not getting all these details in an index. We didn't know. There's no thing that says he signed his name in the index because it's just little things, right? So then we get to the actual, here's the ceremony, here's the clerk. Okay, you guys can go ahead and marry them. And then we get down to a family member who was the minister of the gospel of the Missionary Baptist Church in Cedar, Oklahoma. And witnesses, William Ross, Walter French, A.T. Tucker, minister of the gospel, right? And then, of course, when it's recorded, okay? All of these things are not in an index. So I implore you from the bottom of my heart to seek out the original marriage records, whether you are siphoning them off at in the parking lot of the Family History Center during our time of quarantining, or if you are using the catalog on Family Search. Any other suggestions that you guys want to give people before we sign off today?
Nika, I just have one question. Because again,
Yes.
we can't assume anything. If you go back to your file that you just showed us, could you explain to us why one of those corners was missing from the bottom of that document?
You said one of the corners was missing on
One of
the
the corners
bottom of the
was clipped off.
document. Was clipped off. Well, this could be a couple things. So let me share my screen again so we all can see what James is talking about. Okay. So you're talking about a corner being clipped off on this document?
That the very last document, the very last page that you showed us.
Right here, the bottom.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this could be a couple things. This could be the device that holds the paper down when they were scanning.
Oh, okay.
That's what that could be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what that could be. Or it could be in the scenario of like World War I draft cards where they cut the corner off of Black men who were registered for selective service. But my money is on this being the holder. Yeah, it's the device.
Yeah, I thought it was the other one, but I see what you're talking about because I see that it's one long page. But it's still something good for people to know.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're looking at World War I draft cards, this is not across the board, but by and large, most of the ones for Black men, one of the corners is cut off to signify that the person is Black. Anything else before we end? All right. Well, considering that we are, my house is currently disrupted because my husband has come back in from mowing the lawn and my son has decided that he thinks that it is the best time to talk loud as I don't know what. We are moving forward into week 4 of Roots and Chill, and we'll go ahead and make the announcement of what it is. We are going to be focusing on newspapers and periodicals next week, which means that if you have not taken the time to go through your local area to find newspapers, magazines, whatever you can, this is the time to do that. We'll, of course, be giving you instructions on what to look for, where to look for, all kinds of stuff, but make sure that you do your due diligence. In fact, this weekend, research the newspapers and periodicals that are around your area and figure out who has them and how you can gain access to them as we move into week 4 of Roots and Chill. Of course, stay safe. You don't necessarily have to have a mask with elastic. You can make the one like Teresa made that does not require any sewing. It's just fabric and a couple of rubber bands to go around. To go around the ear. Okay. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you around.
Don't feed your spouses to the tigers.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm trying to think. Oh, you know what? We didn't. You guys, we are so.
Why you got to mention Tiger Man?
You know what? I don't even appreciate him mentioning tigers. I have so many problems with that. I totally forgot, you guys. We have a crew chat coming up on the 7th, which is on Tuesday. You guys know what we're talking about? Oh, don't all rush in.
I want to say Tiger King, but I'm not going.
No, we're not talking about Tiger King. Our crew chat on Tuesday is about Trey Furious Styles, Ricky Doughboy et al. Yes, Ricky. Right. We're going to be talking about Boys in the Hood from a genealogical perspective. And if you missed our chat on Good Times, my God, you missed a good one. It was hilarious. There were clearly some Good Time savants that were in the Twitter chat or in crew chat last week because it was debate over. I could have sworn they said that they came from Mississippi, and they didn't. I was like, what episode did y'all watch where they said that?
Did they come from Mississippi? I didn't know.
I don't know. I think we all just assumed.
Because remember James had went down there. I'm gonna have to beat y'all because y'all not paying attention.
I thought Florida was a spinoff of Maude. Maude was in New York. So I was totally confused.
No, they was from Mississippi. James always talked about that.
Hold on. They changed some of the storylines, you guys, because it wasn't exactly an exact spinoff. Because Florida's husband on Maude was like a firefighter. Henry. Exactly. Yeah. But James wasn't no firefighter. We know that. He wouldn't fight no fires.
No.
Unless he was fighting them with Bookman.
Switch Henry to James.
He got recycled.
They like switched it out. They talked it out. I missed it out, but we had, it was a very cheerful. We threw people off with the DNA chart. That was hilarious. People responding about. So be prepared. Have your pen, your pencil, because you're gonna have to do some writing, and we're gonna challenge your a little bit, not a lot. We're gonna challenge your thought process around genealogy and family history. So, all right, you all have a great weekend. Stay safe, sanitize, get your bleach on, do whatever you need to do, and we'll see you on Tuesday for crew chat. And of course, next